Okay, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I think I'll be in front of you a few times. I wanted to make sure that everyone has a yellow document and that you've signed in. And then to move us through today, this morning, I would like you to make eye contact with someone that's going to be your partner when you have to speak with an elbow partner. So would you kind of confirm who is that partner? It might have to be somebody at the next table. Okay. And then to bring us back together periodically, my signal is going to be, let's come back together in 3, 2, 1. Okay? So the first thing that I'd like to do is show you a short clip, and then you're going to answer a comprehension question or a prediction question afterwards. And basically, the question is, who is this? Okay, so could we have lights? And it is a 3-minute video. For those of you that are in math, you'll be happy. For those of you that are not, I ask you not to fall asleep and just hang in there and think about, who is this? Okay?
How to measure from this point.
So the question is, who is this? And you have some choices. Is it a university professor, community college teacher, high school math teacher, non-college graduate, or my honey? And it might be a couple of them. So raise your hands if you think it's a university professor. College, community college, high school math. Okay, non-college graduate. My honey. Okay, all hands should go up. It is my honey. Oh, whoops, I forgot about the microphone. All hands should go up. It is my honey named Ron. He is not a college graduate. This is typical of his daily work. He works with 30 people who are not college graduates in a precision machine shop. And he has to argue and explain every day on the job. And other people on the job have to do the same, and they are non-college graduates. So my point is that even though we are preparing college and career-ready graduates, we want students to go to college if they can, if they want to. But even in the regular workplace, students need academic discourse. And this actually, even though we filmed it at home, it was a replication of a conversation he had at work that day from someone who couldn't figure out, it's very hard to measure an angle on a bushing at the machine shop, so how can you know whether you're making that bushing correctly? And it was by using the top diameter and the bottom diameter. So think about, are we preparing our kids to do that kind of discourse in the workplace? Explaining why the till amount isn't correct. Justifying why you did a project a certain way. Explaining to your boss what you did in the garage that didn't meet the requirements for the car, and now the car is back into the garage for the second time. So students have to be prepared to do that kind of academic discourse. I want you very quickly at your table to share with that person that you made eye contact with one way that you have students talk in class. And I've provided a frame. I currently use blank to give students an opportunity to talk about content. You are only saying one sentence to your partner, please. And I gave you some examples: pair square, numbered heads together, equity sticks, volunteers to share answers to homework, inside-outside circles. What do you use? One method that you use or structure that you use to get students to talk in class. So would you please turn to that person that you made eye contact with earlier and complete that one sentence to your partner. And you have about 20 seconds. Go.
Equity sticks. Equity sticks, like a little popsicle sticks. I think it more just causes like PTSD, like when they hear me like shaking these sticks, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. But I mean, at least it gets them thinking.
Come back together in 3, 2, and 1. Thank you. You have a document in front of you, a yellow document, and there is in section B, there's something that looks just like what's on the screen. I'd like you to take a minute to read output versus interaction. So would you please take a minute to look at the graphic and read those two paragraphs. Would you look up at me if you're finished reading? Okay, the next thing that you're going to do is to, on the signal, not yet, you're going to stand up and you will be back to back to the partner that you made eye contact with. You'll need the document that you just read, okay? And just to give you some ideas of prompts that might elicit output, they're on the screen, and maybe some prompts that might elicit interaction, they're on the screen. You're going to be asked a series of questions in an exercise called back to back. When I give you the signal, you will stand up and literally be back to back with another person, that person that you made eye contact with. I will pose a question and you'll see the question on the screen. When I say next, you'll have 10 seconds of think time. So you'll hear a question and see a question, 10 seconds of think time. When I say face to face, you will literally face your partner and you will discuss for 30 seconds the prompt that I pose. When I say back to back, you will immediately stop talking and turn back to back. Okay? You'll see another prompt, think time, face to face, discuss. When you hear back to back, immediately back to back. Okay, so you get your aerobic workout this morning. So would you all stand quickly, be back to back to your partner with your document. Back to back.
No, not really.
Okay, I've done this in groups of 80, not 110. So.
Huh?
I
No.
think we got it.
Oh, I can see it over here.
Okay, so the first question is, the first question is, what is the difference between output and interaction? What is the difference between output and interaction? 10 seconds of think time. You can look at the document. And face to face. Back to back. I said back to back. Next question. Think of the talk strategy or structure that you shared at your table. Earlier this morning, I asked you to share one way that you have students talk. Does it elicit output or interaction, that strategy that you shared? Output or interaction, and explain your answer. And I'm going to ask the person that didn't start talking last time to be the first person to talk this time, and face to face.
I would say it'd be interaction because the kids have to go back and forth. So even though they read the same procedure, they'll like, no, it's this, no, it's that. So they have to interact with each other to like, no, it's that. They like come up with one conclusion on how to do the next step.
Beep. Back to back. Back to back. Next question. How much opportunity do you provide for output? How much for interaction? This is in your instruction. If you are a leader, an administrator, think about what you see in classrooms. How much opportunity do you provide for output? How much for interaction? What does it look like in your class? And face-to-face.
Yeah, that's what I
Back to back.
I'm scared of them talking to each other.
You can tell this is the last question because there's no more space on the screen. Last question. How could talk deepen content knowledge? So how could talk deepen content knowledge in your content area? Face to face.
And it also gets them thinking about what they actually
We took 3 kids home yesterday, me and Ray, and then they were talking about a class about the French Revolution and how awesome it was, and they learned a lot. I was like, oh, what did you learn? And then he kind of explained, like he told me what he learned, and then I was like,
Back to back and have a seat. Back to back and have a seat. Okay. So let's debrief a little bit. And we're back together. Let's debrief a little bit. 1, that strategy works because it's really hard to continue, and I've done it with several students in classrooms. It's really hard to keep talking when you're back to back. You have to do a yoga, back bend in order to keep the conversation going. So just the mere fact of physically turning your back makes the conversation come to a close. So for classroom management, it's good. Gets you up, stand up. You've got long block periods. So that's another advantage of this. But let's talk about the last piece. How can talk deepen content knowledge? Think about your deepening of content knowledge that happened around output versus interaction just by talking it through. So we could have stopped after you read it, and I announced a test on Friday, but you were given an opportunity to talk about it. Do you feel like the opportunity to talk about it made it so you were clearer about output versus interaction? So think about that for students and what that means, that ability to, or the opportunity to process information out loud really does clarify one's own understanding. Plus, you're using academic vocabulary. Plus, it's in preparation for writing. It helps with reading comprehension. So I want to point out one thing. I had showed the questions earlier on the slide, just what kinds of questions elicit output in general and what kinds of questions elicit interaction. And so there's something to pay attention to, and that is the kinds of questions that you ask students. There are questions where it's just not going to produce a lot of interaction because it's a finite answer. Who was the first president of the United States? Good job. In what year was the Constitution finalized? Good job. Those don't produce interaction. But if I said, what were the qualities of the first American president, and are those qualities still important today? That would produce interaction. So just thinking about the kinds of questions that you ask. The other thing that I wanted to point out is in the input descriptor, it says that providing opportunities for student output is a strong instructional practice that supports the more challenging task of authentic interaction. You cannot flip your flow from students not talking very much or just producing output to all of a sudden I'm doing all interaction all day. You can't. It's a continuum, and you need multiple opportunities for output, and it needs to be a norm with expectations. Nope, everyone's participating. I'm calling on everyone. I'm not leaving anyone silent. It's a safe place to participate. All of that needs to be in place before you're having real interaction. The district focus on academic discourse is way on the interaction end. Okay? But realize that it's a continuum and that you're going to hopefully attempt to just move along the continuum, because there's no way to go from 0 to 50, right? Okay, the next, if you would turn the page on your yellow handout, the next image is something that I think you've seen before from the district document on academic discourse, and it's this idea of an iceberg. You will see some check boxes over to the side, and I'd just like you to take a minute to mark check boxes in the ones that you do. So would you mark a check in the boxes if you do those 4 things, or whichever ones you do? If you don't use scaffolded output, if you don't provide sentence frames, then you're not going to... Oh. That was a not yet, but that's okay. So just kind of to raise awareness of where you're at, what you're doing currently. That's why I asked you to put check boxes in. I just want to draw a link between the IPG and academic discourse. It lives in culture of learning, it lives in challenging content, and it especially lives in student ownership, right? So there's no disconnect, it's not something different, something new, it's just getting better at what we're already trying to do in class. I wanted to point out the current state of affairs. We have an EL task, I forgot. It's not the EL task force, but it's like an update of that and the master plan, sorry. And in 2016, there were 38 people who shadowed English learners for a week. And the chart on the right represents the amount of academic discourse that was found that students, English learners in particular, were engaging in. So it's 3 to 5 minutes a day of academic discourse. Now they're talking about lots of things, but not about content. Also recently, 4 middle school, all content areas, 1 high school, 2 content areas, and there's a description of what kinds of output was seen in classes. Teacher poses a question, 2 to 5 students answer, or teacher poses a question, calls on 1 student, or students are in groups, not necessarily doing the talk about the content, maybe doing the work, but not much talk going on, or no accountability piece for you have to work in groups, but there's not a product that needs to be shared out at the end. The last thing that I'd like you to do is you have a document that is blank sitting in the middle of the table, blank on the right side, has A, B, C, D, E, F, G on the left. I'd like you to take a look at that with a partner. There's 1 for every 2 people. And I just want to give you about 30 seconds of think time, and you're not going to write on it. There's 1 for 2 people, so make sure you and your partner can both see it. And look at the list and just think about what is it that you already do And what might that look like if you were to bump it up on that continuum? So which of those things do you already do? You have another document in front of you that I think the admin staff handed out that actually has both sides filled out. That was supposed to be the reveal. But, so if you are already placing students in groups and having them work together, what you might try is having them actually share with a neighboring group. If you are already having students, if you are already kind of avoiding having students talk because you don't feel it's very productive, it doesn't work out very well, the volume just gets high, then what you might do at that place on the continuum is talk with colleagues. Ask admin, do you see it in somebody's classes? Who could I go visit? Who could I go talk to? I want to see how they structure it. So this is just kind of what might present a next step to you, wherever you're at. Because we know you can't go from simple teacher posing a question, one student answers, to being this ta-da interaction, right? So wherever you are on the continuum, think about the next step. Would you turn to the last page of your paper? And it says, based on today's PL, and it is brief, it's just an introduction to academic discourse. My time is up, but I would like you to get to Anne before the day's out, or before today's session is out, something that you plan to do. I either plan to reach out to somebody, Alicia, May, myself, a colleague, or I plan to find more information about, like structured, how do you pair up students, or I plan to try something. One of the things that you might try is back-to-back. And then there's a place for some feedback, something you appreciated, and if you have a question. All of those go to Anne, she'll keep a copy, I'll get a copy, and then we'll kind of move forward from there next time I see you. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the morning, and it's almost Friday, right? Every day it's almost Friday.